everyone, it is Tanya. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I am back with another speed build, and this is going to be a very large family house. We are building on a 40 by 30 lot here in Sequoia, which is the world that comes with the Growing Together expansion pack. And this is going to be a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house that also has a full garage and a separate art studio that could be converted into an additional bedroom if you prefer. So it's a really big house. I was kind of in the mood to do this. I've been working on this for the last couple of weeks because it took way longer than I thought it was going to. And I've been sharing sneak peeks for my YouTube members over on the community tab. So y'all have probably been seeing some pictures of this for a while now, but it is finally done and I'm so excited to share it. So I really hope everyone enjoys it. If you do and you'd like to download it for yourself, it is available right now on the Sims 4 gallery. You can find it under my EA ID, which is Gryphi, Gryphi. You could also find it under the hashtag Gryphi, and that information will be in the description down below as well. I also wanted to give you one last reminder about the midsummer sale that's going on right now on the EA app as it ends tomorrow on August 11th. And I really don't want you to miss out on some really good savings on a variety of DLC. You can get cats and dogs, cottage living, island living, and a ton of other packs for 50% off right now. And businesses and hobbies is 20% off. And the sale ends tomorrow. So now is a really good time to pick up some of this DLC. And if you do, please consider using my creator code Gryphi at checkout. You just enter it when you're making a purchase on the EA app and it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does support me as a creator as I receive a small commission on your purchase price. So thank you so much for considering, and thank you to EA for sponsoring this portion of the video. So very much still working on the shape of the house here. I knew I wanted to have a curved roof portion over on the left, and I was thinking something with archways over here would be kind of cool. So I'm experimenting with a couple of different options, and I'm really glad I did this. It's kind of like a closed indoor-outdoor porch area that is actually going to be off of the art studio that I included in this build. I guess it could be an office as well if you prefer, but I think it ends up being a really cool addition, and I love the roof line of this house. I had such a blast coming up with this one, and it's just a little bit different than some of the builds I've done in the past. I also tried so many different colors on the outside of this, so many different roof patterns, textures, and we get there in the end. It just takes a while. I also got to use these windows here from the industrial loft kit. I think they are so beautiful, and I paired it with some other windows here on the top from the Realm of Magic pack. A lot of swatches of those windows have stained glass or really intricate details, but there is a plain white and a plain black version, and they come in both rectangular and curved versions, so they're very versatile for a lot of builds, and they worked beautifully here to pair with those industrial loft windows. I was fairly happy with the shape and height of the roof at this point, but I knew I wanted to make sure there was plenty of room up there for there to actually be bedrooms and livable space. So I am adding some dormers here to extend the space that is usable, and I also extended the bottom portion of the house to add a garage. I thought that this would look really cool here, and it did take a little while to figure out what shape I wanted the roof on the garage to be, because I didn't want it to be taller than the rest of the house, and I wanted it to blend in a way that it didn't feel like I made the house too long horizontally, if that makes sense, because I originally was thinking it would be a little bit smaller than this, but I was actually really happy with this addition, and it definitely added some more usable space upstairs as well, so I could add some more bedrooms, and we're gonna have some more space out the back with some more dormers here. I actually extend this quite a bit. So playing around with the roof to figure out how to make that work, I was just experimenting to get the most livable space as possible on the interior. And a lot of the times I do this sort of thing where I do a curved portion of roof that meets the rest of it. It's a little bit bigger of a shape than I typically would want to go for, but it allows for so much more space on the interior of the build, so I thought it was fine. Also, in real life, the back of a house is not usually that beautiful. It's usually the front that has the most focus, and the sides and back aren't as nice, but I still feel like this looks pretty nice on the back. I was quite pleased with it, but the focus was definitely on the front of the home. Also, at this point, I was thinking it would be nice to have the driveway and stuff meet up with the divot in the sidewalk in this world, but it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. It's sort of in the middle of the lot, and I tried to do that with the terrain paint, but we are going to go back and delete that a little bit later on and just ignore the divot in the sidewalk in the world and have some tiles that lead to the end of the lot. But anyway, we're inside now and working on the floor plan. I started by placing down the staircase, which ended up being pretty close to the entrance of the build. It ends up having a pretty large entrance room with all of those windows that are on the outside from the industrial loft kit. I think they look really pretty, but here is where that staircase is. It's sort of open to the downstairs, so you can see down that space. And then upstairs, I was able to fit 4 bedrooms, which I was very happy about. There's also 2 bathrooms up here, and one of them is an ensuite bathroom for the primary, which also has its own dedicated closet room or like walk-in closet. There's a hall bath, and then there is a pretty large hallway as well. So I ended up imagining there was a couple that lives in this house, and then they have 2 teenagers, a kid, and then downstairs there is a guest room or spare bedroom, which ends up being decorated pretty simply. I didn't want to inject a bunch of personality into a spare bedroom, but I did put so much personality in the kids' rooms, and I'm very excited to share those because they might be some of my favorite kids' rooms I've decorated in a while. I guess teens' rooms, only one of them is for a kid, 2 are for teens, but I think they were really fun. Anyway, I will talk more about those once we get to them, but for right now, I am trying to figure out the floor plan on the bottom floor and placing furniture where I think the rooms are going to go. Some of it moves around a little bit, like I swap the spare bedroom and our like art studio space. And then I'm just grabbing like placeholder furniture for where I think the dining space is going to be and the kitchen. There ends up being actually a really big kitchen island in here, which I thought was really fun. And I don't end up using this swatch of this counter. I don't even think I use this counter at all. I'm pretty sure I use a different base game one that's been in base game since day one. But I do really love that new base game set that we got earlier in the year. I think it is so pretty. But it just wasn't correct for this house once I got to furnishing. But right now I'm just adding all of the doors and archways, trying to finalize how all of that is going to work. Although downstairs, I think we end up with one more hallway space, like a little walkthrough room. And then this is where I am starting the process of trying every single color in the game on the outside of this build. And it's not going to look like it's that long of a process probably, because I sped it up and cut out a lot of the process because I spent about an hour in real time changing the wallpaper on this house, which is a little bit ridiculous, but I was just very indecisive about it. I kind of wanted a brick, I kind of wanted a stone, I wasn't sure what colors, but in the end, it ends up being this brick from Businesses and Hobbies paired with a beige siding. I know it's kind of a boring color scheme, but I feel like it's a pretty realistic one. And then I felt like on the entryways, the little roof piece up there felt like it needed something, and I thought a window would look nice, but I didn't like the idea of being able to see inside of it. I know that's kind of weird. I didn't want the window to be a window, but I didn't want to be able to see inside the roof, there being nothing there, so I actually placed the same window on top of itself a bunch of different times, so that way it was not see-through anymore, but it still had the look of having that little decoration there. And then here is the garage, or not the garage, the driveway that leads to the garage and the walkway to the front as well. I just used some like floor tile to do this, and I think it looks a lot better with this house, more structured. Yes, it doesn't line up with where the sidewalk actually is, but I thought it was okay because I think it looked really nice. I also really wanted to use the tree house that came with Growing Together because it matches this world, and I wanted this to be kind of like a perfect family home and have lots of space for activities, and the treehouse just felt like a no-brainer, so I did include that here. And you can see I played around with the fence quite a bit and all of the different walkways. It feels like there are so many, but it actually worked out really nicely because it allowed me to sort of designate all of the areas where I was going to have greenery and flowers and all of that. And I feel like the pathways end up feeling more realistic and like they blend into the property a little bit better once I finish the landscaping. It doesn't feel like there's just so many of them like it does a little bit right now, at least to me. For landscaping, I used a mixture of these low-lying flowers, some blue hydrangeas, and some sunflowers, and I thought that that was a really nice mix, the blues and the yellows, against the pretty like neutral siding of this house. I thought it was pretty realistic. I feel like most of the time when you have a big family home, it's not, the outside isn't going to be like bright pink or bright blue or something like that, and then so many colors in the landscaping. I mean, that does happen from time to time, I'm sure, but I just wanted this to look like your average, like pretty big family home, like a happy family house. And I thought the color being brought in through the landscaping and then some of the things that I put outside was a good idea. So there ends up being like chalk drawings outside for them to play hopscotch. I get a basketball hoop. There's like bikes and stuff outside. And I felt like I was able to capture the idea of this big happy family in this house without having to have a very colorful house. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's what I was thinking. Anyway, enough rambling about me defending my beige house. Here I am finishing up some of the landscaping. I did a lot of it out front. Here's that bike I had mentioned. I also have some really beautiful trellis pieces going up the side of the house from the high school years expansion pack. There is also a ladder that matches that you can use in the game. I didn't use it here, but I thought it was a really pretty addition and helped break up some of those larger walls of brick. And I am now continuing some more landscaping out the front. I thought about putting the basketball hoop hanging up above the garage, but I decided having a separate one in the driveway looked a little bit better, so that's what I decided to do there. And then we just have some shrubs framing out this walkway over here. And you can see what I mean. I feel like the walkway blends in a little bit better now, now that I have lots of greenery surrounding it. I also got one of these really pretty trees here. I'm using a lot of Saliva to Objects items. I tend to use that in most of my builds. I just think there's more variety in them, and some of them I like the look of better, so decided on that. And then here are some plants out front, a planter and just some decorative plants as well. Just trying to get like a couple of items that tell a story of like this space being used, so they were actively planting things out here. And then I'm going through and getting lighting, so at night everything looks nice. But moving inside now and starting on the kitchen, because I tend to start on the kitchen in my builds. It's always my favorite room to decorate for some reason, and these are the base game cabinets that I did end up using. And I do swap out the windows as well, so just framing out where everything is going to be. I do end up using this subway tile as well, which is also from base game. It came with the update earlier this year for the anniversary. And oh my gosh, this fridge from Kitchen Clutter is so nice. I love all of the things hanging on it. It really tells the story of a busy family with all sorts of like drawings and calendars. So I really enjoyed using that. It's always nice when we get more things like that in the game. The sink is from there as well. And it's a sink that actually has dishes actively in it, which is kind of cool. But before we continue on the kitchen, I'm going through and painting all of the walls and the floors. I ended up using this wood flooring from Cats and Dogs. I don't use it very often, but I really love this tone of wood. I think it looks really nice in this house. But I wanted to have a different flooring in the kitchen, probably a tile, so I tried a few different ones, just because the flooring wasn't the exact same shade as the cabinet, so it felt a little bit off. And at that point, I decided that I was going to separate the kitchen off so it was separate from the dining room. They'd be two different rooms. And I made a little hallway space that is like the walkthrough between the kitchen, the dining room, and the art studio. And I also added a small half bathroom in that space as well. Although I think I did that a little bit later and I decorated the kitchen first. The tile I have on the floor now, I can't remember if I kept it or not, but this tile in here, I feel like is always the one I want to go for in kitchens. It's from high school years, and the reason I always want to go for it is it's pretty much exactly the tile that I had in real life in my house growing up, although it does look like I changed it now. Yeah, I ended up going with the space game one instead, but the one that had the sort of like diamond shaped or square tiles that are white and beige, that is what I had in my kitchen growing up. So I always try and use it in my houses in the game, but I didn't keep it here, and I actually brought the brick from the exterior inside in this house in quite a few places. I just thought it was so pretty, the different tones in it. It just ended up working really nicely, both as a backsplash and as accent walls throughout the entire house. I feel like brick usually feels kind of cold or more industrial, but for some reason in this home, it just felt really cozy and warm, and I was very pleased with it. But cluttering up the kitchen now, I really love adding a lamp in the corner. I just thought that that looked really cute. I also got like a dish rack. There is a bunch of items from the new kitchen clutter kit, like these cereal boxes, which I think is pretty realistic when you have kids and teens in a house. There's just cereal everywhere. I know that's what it was like for me growing up, and I still love some cereal, and I would love to know everyone's favorite type of cereal. That would be very interesting to know. And if you are an adult at this point, do you still prefer what are considered more like sugary kids cereals? Because I know I personally do. And I almost never want the ones that are more marketed as marketed to adults, Because, like, why would I step away from Crunch Berries or Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cocoa Puffs? Like, those are all so amazing. And, like, why would I step away from them? I mean, I don't have cereal very often, but when I do, that is the kind of cereal that I want. But let me know what your favorite is, if it's different from when you were a kid versus now, or what types you tend to go for. What's typically in your house if you regularly have cereal? Anyway, I added a few plants on the walls here. I also have a backpack right next to the island. I also grabbed the parenting board from Parenthood, so your Sims can set curfews and all of that. There's aprons in here, and this little like organizer on the wall that they can probably put like kids' projects and report cards and all of that sort of stuff in. And of course, there's also a trash can in here and a place to hang up some pots and pans. I always think it's nice to add those in here. We have a couple of them in game now. I think it's this one. There's a base game one, and I think that might be it. But I really like adding things like that. I feel it's pretty realistic. Here is where I'm actually finally sectioning off to add the additional bathroom down here so that there is one that is a little bit more accessible to most of the house. And it's just a half bath. It's a toilet and a sink. And I will decorate that a little bit later on. Just finishing up this room, adding another brick wall in here, and then we are moving on into the dining room. And when it comes to the dining room and the living room, I was so indecisive on the colors in here. I changed them so many times. And I come back into the dining room after I move on to the living room to change like the rug and stuff. So you'll see that whole process. I just really wanted it to feel very cohesive and warm and not like everything was just beige. I wanted plenty of color in this space. And right now it's looking very beige. So that is why we come back to it. But here I am just placing down some of these hutches, which are from the Jungle Adventure game pack. They are my favorite hutches in the game. They just feel like very simple and like the ones I see in most people's houses. So I added those here, and then I am cluttering up the shelves that are underneath them with a variety of plates. I have like some stacked dishes. There's some plants in here. There's some decorative plates, both ones that look fancier and ones that look like the kids customized when they were little. And I love the idea of that. I think it's kind of fun to have those little personal touches in homes in the game. I feel like we all had some sort of art project our parents kept on display forever that we made when we were a kid. So having that in the game is always fun. I don't think we have a ton of that. We have like some artwork and stuff, but I think these plates are one of the main things that's not just like a piece of paper. I might be wrong on that though. Anyway, over here I grabbed a bench just to fill up space by the backyard exit, and there's a place to hang up some coats and stuff. And then this sconce makes an appearance so many times in this house. I think it is so pretty. And I also made sure to include a burglar alarm, fire alarm, and our temperature controls. And there's a few of those throughout the house so that you can easily access it no matter where you are. I think there's going to be one by the front entrance as well, and then one upstairs. But here is the living room. I do end up keeping these couches, but in a different swatch. These ones are from Cozy Kitsch, and they're definitely one of my favorite couches in the game. I just could not make up my mind on the colors in here, and it was feeling too beige again because I picked like cream colored sofas. But they do end up being the green one in the end, which I think looks so, so nice. I also tried a bunch of different curtains. Right now I have businesses and hobbies ones going on in here, but they're a creamy white color. So I was still very much stuck in accidentally making everything beige, but we will get out of it soon enough. Okay, it might be a little while because we're still placing down curtains and the couches are still cream colored, but bear with me. Starting here, though, I do grab a dollhouse to put in the corner. This one is, I believe, from I can't remember what it's called. It's like a baby kit that we got at some point that has stuff for nursery. Storybook Nursery, I believe is what it's called. So it's supposed to be the goth house, but it's in a different color. I think it's really cute, and I wanted to make sure there was toys and stuff in the living space here. I didn't imagine this house was entirely just like prim and proper with nothing out and about. It is on the cleaner side, I would say, in the living spaces, but I did still have some personality for the kids. And here we're starting to have a little bit of color. I changed to these curtains, which are some of my most used favorite curtains in the game. They're from Desert Luxe, and I placed them down in a blue swatch, and they end up being prominent throughout the entire rest of the house. So I, of course, bring in a lot of blue, changing the rug in here, and I can't remember if this rug stays like this or if I change it again because I changed my mind quite a bit. But here I am placing those curtains in the dining room as well, and then moving around and picking out a rug for this space. And then I thought about having some bookcases in the living room behind the sofas, but I didn't really like how they looked, so I am going to be changing that out for some cabinetry instead. And I also placed down a standing piano in here, which I always just think is a fun addition to Sims homes. Having that in a family space I think is really fun. And just getting some plants tucked in all of the corners, and then that cabinetry that I had mentioned. And then we are finally changing the color of the sofas to this beautiful green color, and then trying some more rugs and going back and forth a little bit before we get to our final one. And all of a sudden that space has so much more color. I am so glad that I stuck with it and tried some different rugs and changed the swatch of the sofas. It's just really starting to come together here. But moving on to this small bathroom that I added in this space, I kept it fairly simple. We have the same countertop that I have in the kitchen with a sink, and then I am just grabbing like some soap to put on the sink. And then this is the other bathroom downstairs. This one is quite a bit bigger, so it does have a shower tub combo and a washer and dryer. I thought that that would be a nice addition. You could also move the washer and dryer into the garage if you preferred. I feel like it could work very nicely there as well. But I decided to keep it in this bathroom since it was such a big bathroom. And then I also painted some of the walls this navy color, which I thought was quite fun. And I think I keep it even though it's a different color than the curtains. I guess I was fine with that. But yeah, just decorating the space, getting some bathroom clutter because there is a bathroom, or not a bathroom. Yes, there is multiple bathrooms on this floor, but there is a bedroom on this floor. So I feel like sometimes maybe the kids or guests that are staying over might use this bathroom to get ready. Hence why I did add a shower and a tub in here so your Sims could use this space as well. I feel like with the amount of Sims that are living in this house, getting ready in the morning is probably a bit of a hassle. So the more bathrooms, the better. But this hallway came together pretty quickly. I just had a bookcase and some plants in there. And then this is going to be the spare bedroom that I had mentioned. I used a bed from Cats and Dogs, and the bedside tables actually don't match the bed. They match the flooring a little bit better. And that is also where the dresser is from. And they're both from Seasons. And so yeah, just decorating, getting a little bit of clutter up on the dresser. And I should also be grabbing the curtains and a little mirror. And that is pretty much it for that spare bedroom. And we're moving on into the entryway where I used this beautiful side table, which I believe is from their refined living room kit. It just really matched the wood tones I wanted to have in here. So decorating that with a little mirror, some books, just like all of your average things you would have on an entryway table. I also really loved this little owl statue, which I think is from Growing Together. It's like a little owl family. And since I wanted this to be a happy family home, I thought that that made a lot of sense to put there. And here is our second burglar alarm and temperature controls, and also a place to hang up your keys or your bags or whatever you'd like, and some artwork as well in the entry. There isn't actually that much stuff in here. It's a pretty spacious room, but I didn't fill it with a bunch of clutter. I end up having, I believe, a bonsai tree in the corner and a chess table. So there is some skill building items in here, but I didn't want to make it too busy, which I'll be placing those down here shortly. First, I got a couple of these rugs just to make the space a little bit more cozy. The rugs with the leaves on them are from For Rent. I think they're really pretty, especially in the more neutral swatches. And I also hung up a lot of these frames around the house so you could put your family portraits in them, assuming that you do have a big family living here. I'm not really sure who else would live here since I did decorate it as a family home, but I just thought the idea of having space to put those photos would be really nice. But here is that chessboard I had mentioned. I did try a few different ones. It was just really hard to get one that had these swatches I wanted. So just playing around with that now, and I ended up going for a darker wood for this. And then the bonsai tree should be in the corner. It was a last minute addition, but I was like, oh, it's a functional thing I could put there. Why not? I often forget it exists. And then this is going to be the art studio. Like I said, you could probably repurpose this as an office or another bedroom, but I thought an art studio would be really fun with the big windows that I had in here, and I heavily used the artist studio kit. I really like that one. It has a lot of really nice worn items that are covered in paint, and as somebody that went to art school, I really enjoy that kit. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, just fully cluttering up this space with all sorts of paintbrushes and a variety of items to tell the story of a sim who is actively creating art. So I have the still life piece that is a chair with a like bottle and stuff on it with a light facing it. I have sketches on the walls. I have paint on the floor. It's really messy in here, but that makes sense for an artist studio. And I just think it's a fun idea that one of the Sims living in this house is an artist. Well, I assume it's probably one of the parents, but it could be one of the teenagers as well. Or maybe both. Maybe it's something that the parents have shared with their kids and it becomes like something that runs in the family. I love the idea of that. And then over here, I just have a hanging plant. There's also a corkboard with a bunch of postcards on it. And then I'll be finishing up the room with some more art on the walls and some canvases leaning against the wall. I think this room came out really cute and it just adds a little bit something different to a family home. I feel like I usually go for an office or another bedroom, so an art studio was kind of fun. You could probably also turn this into a gym. I think that'd be a cool addition. Anyway, we're already like 25 minutes into this voiceover, so if you are still listening at this point, can you comment pizza? I feel like that would confuse anyone else that isn't watching this far in, because as soon as I finish this voiceover, I'm making a pizza because I'm very hungry and that sounds delicious right now. So yeah, pizza. Comment that if you are still listening at this point. Anyway, we have moved on into the garage and I heavily use the restoration workshop kit in here. It's basically a garage kit and I really like it. Lots of tools and shelving. There's a big like tool chest and there's also a water heater, an electric box and all sorts of stuff like that. And this garage lighting and the wallpaper, it's just so good. So I used a lot of that in here. I also have a fake car, which is just from Debug. So I placed that down, although I think I swap it out so it's not orange, it's a white car a little bit later on. I had just placed one down as a placeholder to make sure the garage was like a realistic size for the non-existent cars in the game. I don't know why I do that, but I sometimes do. But this allowed me to fit a lot of storage in here. There's even like an old mattress from, I think that's from the Basement Treasures kit. It's the old bed. It's like the vibrating bed from The Sims 1. I know we have a version of it with Love Struck now, but that is before that. There's also a woodworking bench out here and an extra bike. And I think towards the end of the build, I also end up adding the decoration box that came with seasons so you can decorate for the variety of holidays. But anyway, moving upstairs now, this is one of the bathrooms. I believe this is the hall bath that the kids would share. So it does have the blue walls and pretty much exactly everything that we have downstairs. I didn't go too in-depth on the bathrooms. I thought just having some standard rooms with some different like rugs for outside the shower and like different bathrobes and towels and stuff was pretty realistic, so that's what I went with. I didn't really want customized bathrooms. I didn't feel like that was something that you see that often. We can do it in the game. We have plenty of really fun decals and shower curtains, especially from Parenthood, but I felt like just having some standard stuff in these bathrooms made the most sense for what I was going for. And then we are working on the primary bedroom, and I cut out a lot of it, but I was so indecisive in here. Hence why there was already a rug down when I came in here, because I tried like 10 different rugs and 10 different beds before I settled on this one from Growing Together, which I paired with some Love Struck bedside tables and those sconces that I've been using throughout the rest of the build. And then I just cluttered up the bedside tables. I kept it pretty simple in here, but I thought it was pretty. I like the blues and the beiges, pretty much all of the same colors that I used throughout the rest of the house. And then the wardrobe over here, I just scaled up with tulle a little bit because it just felt really small. And I got an ottoman at the end of the table as well, and a built-in closet just because it felt like this room was too big. It needed something else over there. So we have this sort of closet, but also a walk-in, which is just a separate room that I added that has some of the shelving from Dream Home Decorator and some hanging clothes in here. I just thought it was cute and I had space for it, so I decided to add it. There's a rug in here and a little chair and a mirror. Pretty simple room, but a nice addition that I don't do very often. And then we are moving on into our first teens room, which is like orange and pink themed. I really wanted to use this swatch on this bed from Cats and Dogs. I haven't used it in a while and I just thought it was really nice. And it paired so nicely with that like tapestry flag piece that I put up above the desk. I thought the colors in it were really nice and similar, and I was able to have like a nice workspace for this teen. I was kind of imagining they were on the cheer team in high school. I thought that was kind of fun. And other than that, I just kind of stuck to a color scheme and didn't want to specify too much what all of the other interests are of this sim. I just wanted it to be bright and colorful and fun, and you can imagine whatever sim you'd like in this space. So it's kind of a mixture of imagining a sim and going with the color scheme. I usually do one or another. This one was kind of both. And the other two rooms definitely have a bit of a personality in mind, especially the next one we're going to head to, which is another teen's room. And I had a blast with that one because I feel like I would have loved it as a teenager. I mean, I would probably still love it today, to be honest, but we're not there yet. I'm just decorating this fake little vanity table I created with a side table and adding a couple more posters. And then we're moving on to the gamer room. This sim likes dark colors and games. I loved this poster from high school years. It has like a Minecraft poster and some like game controllers. I also added some more artwork from the Cozy Gamer kit. So there is a Sims Medieval poster. I also grabbed some other ones in here. There's some little figures from my Sims and of course, game controllers, actual ones, not just pictures of them, and lots of clutter in here. I had a blast with this room. I think it's really fun. I even put some like games and books on the headboard and some pens and pencils and stuff, although there are scissors in there and that's probably not the safest place to keep them considering your head is going to be there when you're sleeping, but it's The Sims. It should be fine. There's even a Blick Block poster over here and a little book bag. And then for the other side of the room, I have a dresser that has a console and a TV and a record player, so your Sims can sit here and game all they want on these beanbag chairs that I included. Plus, of course, I had to add some more posters and I believe a tapestry over on the brick wall. And that should be pretty much it for this room. I think that's the last thing I added in here. Yeah, I love how that room came out. And then this is our final room, which I was imagining was for a kid that really loves like bright colors and fairies and stuffed animals, just like your stereotypical little kid. I feel like my room was just full of stuffed animals and like interesting posters, like a giant kitten in a big city, but like the kitten was the size of the buildings. That's the sort of vibe I was going for in here, but I went with a fairy theme instead. Okay, maybe not a fairy theme, but I used fairy posters, which I believe are from the kids' room stuff pack years ago. It's just Sims wearing like a fairy costume, but I thought that they were really cute. And then there's tons of toys in here. We have a giant stuffed animal of a bunny, there's a big castle dollhouse, and there's like clutter all over the floor as well. Just like a messy, fun, colorful kids room. I even added the little acorn toy box from the fairies pack from Enchanted by Nature. I think it is so cute. I got lots of artwork on the walls in here and this adorable mirror with all of the stickers all over it. Oh, and the Freezer Bunny fairy plushie. I thought that one was so cute, and I'm always happy to have more plushies in the game. They're always fun to add. I have a couple on the bed as well. But that is pretty much it for that room, and we are heading outside now to work on the yard, which is very simple. I didn't go very complicated with this. I just got some more landscaping around here. We already have the treehouse outside and the swing set, and I believe I just add a couple of flower boxes so your Sims can do some gardening. And other than that, it's just all landscaping. I didn't want to overly crowd the space. Like maybe if you moved things around, you might be able to fit a small pool or a hot tub or anything like that, but I didn't really imagine this house would have it. I imagined just more so a big yard the kids could run around in and have the treehouse. And yes, I did imagine that there was 2 teens and a kid, but they probably hung out here when they were younger, or maybe the teens have taken the treehouse. I like the idea of that. But that is it for this build. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and click that bell to be notified when I upload. And a massive thank you to my YouTube members for your continued support. If you'd like to become a member yourself, you can click the join button below the video or the link in the description. Enjoy the screenshots, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye everyone.